What is GDP? Today we're diving into a fundamental concept in economics that often makes headlines and influences government policies. Gross domestic product, or GDP. GDP figures are often front page news, and while most people understand that a high GDP figure is normally a good thing, some may not fully understand what it represents. So what is GDP? GDP stands for gross domestic product, and it's essentially a way to measure the economic performance of a country. And the formula for GDP is pretty straightforward. GDP equals C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Or, in this formula, C is for consumption, which is the spending by households on things like groceries, cars, clothes, digital products, and services like having your hair cut, etc. Pretty much anything that you spend money on. I represents investment. Investment includes business spending on capital and inventory, so things like machinery, buildings, and new products. G represents government spending, so everything a government will spend money on, like schools, defence, and infrastructure. And X represents exports, which are goods sold to other countries, whilst M represents imports, which are goods that we've bought from other countries. So X minus M just represents a country's net exports. So what's significant about GDP? Well, the first is economic health, as it does help us gauge the overall economic health of a country. A rising GDP figure often indicates economic growth, whilst a falling GDP figure can signal a recession. Then there's standard of living. GDP per capita, which is GDP divided by the population, gives us an idea of the average income in a country and can be used to compare living standards. And lastly, there's policy evaluation. Governments use GDP data to assess the impact of their policies. For example, they can see if increased government spending leads to increased economic growth. Now, it's important to acknowledge that GDP does have its limitations and some criticisms. And here are a few concerns. Quality of life. GDP doesn't tell us about the quality of life within a country, income distribution, or factors like healthcare or education. GDP also doesn't account for non-market activities. So that includes things like the black market or unpaid yet productive activities like volunteer work. And then there's externalities that GDP will ignore, particularly negative ones like pollution and natural resource depletion. But to wrap it up, GDP is a really useful economic indicator used to measure the economic performance and overall health of a country. And while it has its limitations, it's still a valuable tool for assessing economic growth, living standards to an extent, and policy effectiveness. Thanks for watching. I've been Luke Staden. If you're looking to get started with investing, now is the perfect time to organise a complimentary consultation with a Black Tower advisor. Black Tower has a footprint in many locations around the globe and will match you with an advisor regulated to give advice in your location. No two people are the same, so it's important that any financial recommendation is tailored to the individual. During the consultation, the advisor will learn about your unique circumstances, your attitude to risk, any ethical concerns you may have, and your long-term goals. Once the advisor understands what your long-term financial objectives are, they will design a plan that suits your circumstances to achieve those goals. To get started, click the link in the description and sign up today.